Hello everyone! In my What's in my backpack video, I gave you a sneak peek of my new notebook, and I had tons of requests to show you how I'm currently taking my notes and some tips on how to achieve the same type of result with your own notebooks. So for today's video, I'll show you the 5 key aspects that make my notes work so well for me and how you can take similar ones. First of all, the first tip is to pick a notebook that is pleasing to the eye, efficient and sturdy enough to hold all of your notes for a long time. I picked a single notebook for all of my semester's notes. Because of that, I thought it would be important to get a sturdier hardcover notebook, as I'll use it for the months to come every single day. The notebook I picked is a Moleskine Pro A4 notebook with dotted pages, and it has 2 key features that make it so functional for note-taking: numbered pages and a table of contents. Since I'm using a notebook for all of my classes, it was very important for me to be able to number the pages and index the different class topics and subjects in a table of contents, and the fact that this notebook already has these 2 components makes my job much easier. Although this doesn't count as a tip for the note-taking in itself, it is definitely a big part of the organization of my notes, and I suggest you to apply the same concept in all of your notebooks. The second tip is to use 2 columns instead of writing across the whole page. I've been taking notes like this for a few years, and whether I apply the Cornell method or not, I always prefer to use it. It allows me to have much more flexibility when taking notes during class, since I'm never able to fully anticipate the lecturer's speech. The fact that I can write horizontally in 2 different spots allows me to add comments, examples, and corrections, instead of having to worry about cramping all the information I'm hearing into the same space. The column method can be used in tons of different ways, and this really varies per subject, class, and the course you're currently taking. In my bachelor's, I used to write down the legal articles I was commenting in class, so I could look at both the original source and the professor's comments in the same page. I also used the column to add my own personal comments on the subject or reference to other pages or materials that I wanted to consult to complement those materials. The way you use this method is really up to you, but I think you should try it out at least for one day. The third tip is to use color, but with caution. As a rule, I only use 2 colored pens for each set of notes. On the one hand, that allows me to highlight only the important information without having to decode dozens of different colors searching for the relevant parts. On the other side, using only 2 pens makes note-taking in itself much more efficient, since I don't need to lose time choosing between too many different colors when I should really be paying attention to class. As a plus, I think that picking a few contrasting colors also makes your notes much neater looking, and if you're looking for this type of aesthetic, minimalism is the way to go. The fourth tip is to learn how to arrange the space in the pages of your notebook. Some people like to cramp as much information as possible in one page, and while that can be quite pleasant looking in a few cases, it can make the studying process way more difficult. If you're using your class notebook as a transitional source of information, like if you're going to rewrite all of your notes when you get home, this might not be a problem. However, if you're thinking of your notebook as the ultimate source of information when studying, it will be important to think of your handwriting and most of all, of how you arrange the space in your page. If you want to use the column method, sometimes you'll not have information to add in the second column. Although this can leave a blank portion in the page that you desperately want to fill in, leave the blank space in there. This can be beneficial for 2 reasons. First of all, your page will look cleaner, and reviewing for a test or exam will be much easier if you give your eyes an easier time looking for specific information. Secondly, allowing yourself for some blank space between notes also lets you write your own personal comments in between in future study sessions, something that I highly suggest you if you are into active reading. Finally, learn how to efficiently cover up mistakes. Tons of people ask me how I'm able to take notes without ever making mistakes. Well, since I'm currently taking English courses and my first language is Portuguese, believe me when I say that I make mistakes, and quite a few of them actually. However, since I'm the only one reading my own notes, if I make any grammar or vocabulary mistake, I will either leave the word as it is, as it will not compromise my learning of the subject, or I will rewrite it in front of the wrong word and underline it. If my mistake compromises my knowledge on the topic, if I read it in the future, I will strike it through as neatly as I can. Overall, this will result in notes as spotless as they can be, and it will not make a difference at all. So I hope you've enjoyed my 5 quick tips on how to write notes like mine, and I'll see you next week. Bye!